FM, Radio Mano, Pika FM, Mpangwe Radio, and Kanele FM. We're happy to welcome our guest, Mr. Brian Mundubile, to the studio. And the Honorable Mundubile is aspiring for the office of Republican President in the upcoming general elections, and he is currently serving as Member of Parliament for Mporokoso in the Northern Province. In this conversation, we will be learning more about who Honorable Mundubile really is, what he stands for, and why he wants to lead the country as president. Allow me to welcome our guest in studio. Honorable Mundubile, good morning and welcome to the Red Hot Breakfast.
Thank you very much. It's a good morning to you and a good morning to all the listeners. Honorable,
thank you so much for joining us. Now, for many people, Brian Mundubile is an MP who debates vibrantly in the parliament, but there are still a number of people who don't really know you. So let's begin from there. Who is Brian Mundubile? When and where were you born, and can you briefly just take us through your history?
Thank you. Brian Mundubile is a Zambian who was born in Mporokoso in 1971. He started his primary school in Solwezi at Kikombe Primary School. At the time, my father was working under UNIP. He proceeded to Zambezi to go and in grade 4. And later, after my parents retired, went back to Mporokoso and was there, I think, up to grade 5. Came to Lusaka. I went to Olympia Primary School, grade 5 and 6. And later went to a school in Chilenje, Timothy Manakatwe. Remember, one of my very good friends, you could know him. This is Dr. Leonard Kalinde. He was Director Legal for Bank of Zambia. That was a friend of mine that I met at Timothy Manakatwe. I did my secondary school at Kamwala Secondary School, after which I had gone to the University of Zambia in 1992-93, did A-levels there, and later started studying accounting at Zikas. At that time it was at Evelyn Horn before they moved to their building. Yeah, so pretty much later in life I studied law. I got a degree in law, went to Ziale. Later on went to study a diploma in legislative drafting and a master's degree in constitution and administrative law. Yeah, to a greater part of my life, I worked for a short period at the Zambia Privatization Agency. That should have been around between 1996 and 1999. After which I went up to set up my own business. So I'd been in business for a very long time, actually. I think between 2000 and the time that I came into politics, I'd been doing private business. You'd be happy to know that I spent quite a bit of time in the Western Province. I'd set up my business in the Western Province for a while. At that time, we were exporting wood, hardwood from Western Province, where we had set up our sawmills and factories from there. And later went into road construction. There's a business that I've done for over 20 years. And in 2016, decided to go into politics. Elected as a member of parliament from Mporokoso. Was later appointed as a minister. Yes, served Northern Province as Northern Province Minister between 2016 and 2019, and later was appointed as Government Chief Whip. I served from 2019 to 2021. After we lost the presidential elections, I was later appointed as leader of opposition, a position I served from 2021-2023. And of course in the party I was a member of Central Committee. I've been a member of Central Committee from 2017 to date. I also chaired the legal committee of the party for 6 years, and was actually the chairman for the disciplinary committee also. I chaired a number of committees, within the party, including the Election Petitions Committee. After the 2021 elections, you remember that the UPND had petitioned a number of elections, and actually chaired that committee that was supervising lawyers, representing our people in all these. Yeah. So in sum, that is Brian Mundubile.
Okay. Well, quite a colorful journey you have there. Tell us about how your upbringing shaped the type of person that you are today.
Well, of course, like I said earlier, I was born in Mporokoso, lived part of my life in Mporokoso, part of it in Northwestern Province, part of it in Michinga Province, back in Northern Province and Lusaka. So that gave me an opportunity to interact with people at various levels. And I think out of that, I learned to love. I learned to give. As you know, I want to give you an example. Mporokoso is a rural part of the country. And the people in that part of the country, most of them are vulnerable. Most of them are poor. And living there taught me something, taught me the real life situations, what people go through in life. And I think that opportunity has helped me in politics, because I really know what it means to live in a village and what people in those areas do go through. I was able to contrast between a life in a village, where this old woman would wake up in the morning, walk so many kilometers to her small garden to go and cultivate her garden, maybe walk down to pick up firewood for energy source at home, maybe in the process go collect mushroom, as it were. I mean, this is the life that I saw. I saw what people go through just to make ends meet, as it were. Yeah, so that has shaped the way I look at people generally. And I think for my politics, it's been very helpful in that even as I plan to help people, I know to what level one should go. I know how far or how vulnerable people living in certain communities really are. Yeah.
So if I went to Mporokoso and I picked anyone from there and asked them what kind of person you are, what would they tell?
Well, the first thing they'll tell you is that the story really is that because I'd lived there in the very early years, even before I became an MP, I began to do certain projects within Mporokoso. At that time, I want to tell you that I didn't even have interest to stand as a politician. But because along the way in life, I think I felt I was privileged. God gave me a chance to, accumulate a bit of wealth. I decided to share it with the people in Mporokoso. I had no intention whatsoever, to take up a political seat, as it were. So out of that, I didn't realize that people were beginning to identify me as a future leader. And in the end, they made their call. They demanded that, I go and represent them as an area member of parliament.
So the people chose you?
The people chose me, yes. My journey was an interesting one, especially, well, I first attempted in 2011. Again, it was a call from the people. I tumbled against Professor Wilombe. That time there was a regime change. Up to now, I don't know how I lost that election, because I really had it under my control. So 2016, I decided to carry on with my private life and continued in business. But then one day I just received a call. I received a call from the high office. Adoptions had been done, and I think somebody was adopted to stand in Mporokoso. So the people there rejected and demanded that we have our leader. We want, if you don't bring him, then we will choose somebody else. These were members of my political party. So I was called by the late president then, and he called me, and asked me why I did not apply to stand as a member of parliament from Porokoso. I mentioned to him, I said, Your Excellency, at the moment, I'm actually the chairman of the Energy Regulation Board. I was the chairman of the ERB then. And I think I'm comfortable to do this and, whatever other business I'm doing. And he told me that, look, the people from Porokoso are up in arms. They want you to go to Porokoso as a member of parliament. What would you say? I told His Excellency that I was just but a servant. If the party felt I was the man to go and get the seat, I was ready. And 2 days later, I was in Porokoso for nominations, and the rest is history. Yes.
Okay. Now tell us, what values do you hold dear as a leader?
Firstly, the first is patriotism. Patriotism, out of which there's love for the country, love for the people of Zambia. Sincerity is also key. It's a virtue. So these are some of the things that I hold very, very dearly. Yeah.
Okay. Now, apart from being a lawyer of good standing, you're also a businessman. You've actually talked to us about that. But just expand on that. Tell us about some of your business interests so we can get to know you more.
Yes. For 20 years, I've been running a construction company with other colleagues. I'm actually just one of the directors and the chairman of the board. We run a business called Build Trust Construction. It's a business that is in road construction, and another company called Omni Contractors. These are the two businesses that we've run for quite some time. It was a very interesting journey in that we started these businesses as very small businesses, and we were able to grow them to a level where we started competing with very big Chinese companies and undertaking very big government projects. Yeah, so those are some of the businesses that I have done along the way. It's something that I did until I actually got into politics. You'd be happy to know that Zambezi Road in Roma is one of our projects that we did under Build Trust Construction. We had another big project in Iteji. It was 109 kilometers of road, and I think completed is about 70. Along the way, I think government had problems with funding, so there's about 36 kilometers that was not completed. That is also among some of the projects that we've done along the way. Yeah.
There's always this common talk among people about how local contractors don't do great jobs when it comes to roads. How does your company, make sure that you put out quality roads?
Yeah. First of all, I think what is important to know is that in all this, you have three parties. You've got the client, mostly who's government, and then you've got a consultant who is the supervisor looking at the interests of the client, and you've also got a contractor. So all these three must play their part. The client, who is government, must pay the contractor for the work that they do. The consultant should ensure that the contractor is working in accordance with the designs and indeed the bill of quantities. And the contractor must execute the works. If any of these three fails to do their part, there's a problem on that particular project. For instance, one of the biggest problems on these projects is actually payment by the client. Even the best performing contractor fails when they're not paid. You would find that the same contractors would perform very well under World Bank projects and fail when they're doing projects for the government. The reason is simple. When payments are made timely and the consultant is doing their work, contractors rarely fail. Remember that before these contracts are awarded, contractors are assessed for capacity to execute these works. So if a contractor is supported, especially with payments, it's very, very difficult. It's very rare that a contractor would fail. Yeah, so some of the reasons why local contractors fail is because the client, especially government, sometimes does not release payments timely, And sometimes they just don't pay at all. So there's very little that contractors can do. You know, these are very huge projects. You know, they involve a lot of money. Any delay, you know, their salaries alone, monthly salaries, run in millions. You know what I mean? 2-3 months later, of a contractor not being paid, and workers, he owes workers who have done no work, you know, because he had no money for fuel and other materials. It really destabilizes the cash position of most of these contractors. So to answer your question, the biggest challenge has been, I think, on payments, funding from the client.
Now, you're one of the senior PF members who had applied to be president of the party. That process was later halted. Just to be clear, is that ambition still there?
Yes, that ambition is very much there. I still remain in the race to stand as the president of the party and let contest as the Republican president. So that ambition is still very much there.
So what's driving this ambition?
Like I said, it's patriotism. You know, the urge to serve. This is something that has grown in me over a period of time, especially from the time that I became member of parliament. I realized that I can play a part to make life better for that old woman that I described, Ivana Kulumulenga, who every morning walks kumabala, kuya teve nkuni, kuya sava ifipushi, no kubwela. I can make her life better, you know. So this is one thing that drives me to want to serve at a national level. I believe, especially now that we've been in opposition, I've looked at the gaps. I've looked at the many failures on the part of government. And I realized that I can make a difference. I can make a difference in that my first goal is to put Zambia first. Prioritize Zambia, put the Zambians first. The moment that happens, any leader that would do that would definitely make a difference. And this is where I think I can make a difference.
So why should Zambians trust you to do that?
Well, they can look at my past practical experience and performance. I had a chance to work as a provincial minister of Northern Province. And the 3 years that I was in the province, you would agree with me that there was a lot of activity in Northern Province. Some of the projects that were embarked on were the 200,000 hectares of Kalungushi farming block. I remember coming to this studio to explain and talk about the Northern Province Investment Expo. We had begun to open up the province under my leadership in areas of agriculture, areas of tourism, and of course at that time there was exploration for the minerals and oil within Northern Province. If you remember, we had started a project under Talo Oil exploration project. Yeah, so the experience that I had firstly was that looking at the poverty levels in the country, the poverty levels in the country would average about 50 to 60%. But in the rural parts of the country, like in Porokoso, Kasam, and these other areas, to be as high as 76%. So whatever you do, you needed to find solutions to lower the poverty levels. Many efforts have been made, but you see that there's been no reduction in poverty levels. So the only way we would want to fight poverty in those areas by creating employment. We need to create sustainable employment to be able to reduce poverty. Now, to create employment in areas like the rural parts of the country, let's start from there, because you asked me how, why people should trust me. We began with Northern Province. The idea was we picked the agriculture sector because we had comparative advantages in that sector, in that the rain pattern there is good and we have a lot of water in Northern Province and arable land. So we isolated 200,000 hectares of land and began to look for investments in that particular area. So government was to put up road infrastructure, communication infrastructure, and other backbone infrastructure. We had interest expressed from investors in China who wanted to come and put up some farms within the farming block. And when they submitted their proposal was that they would employ up to 45,000 people within that farming block. So already, just at that, we would have resolved the challenge of unemployment in Northern Province. We didn't stop there. Through interaction, we discovered that World War I actually ended in Northern Province, and in Northern Province, Zambia and Northern Province, and not in Europe as it were. I think you remember that we started a campaign. It was a very serious campaign where we were to rewrite world history. You can imagine for over 100 years, the whole world believed that World War I ended in Europe. When we discovered it ended in Zambia, we started a campaign to rewrite history. I remember talking to President Lungu about it. When I mentioned, he asked me, he said, "Are you sure you want to do this? This is a big challenge. You know, are you sure they're going to, the Germans will agree with you, the British will agree with you?" I said, "Your Excellency, I believe in trying. I'm inspired by impossibilities. I think this is one assignment that I want to take on." We did that. We managed to bring people from all over the world. But most importantly, we managed to convince the British government. They sent two generals from the British Army. They came to that event in Imbala and actually admitted that World War I actually ended in Imbala. We also managed to trace the grandson for the general who fired the last shot in World War I. He also came to Mbala, to come and give his side of the story. Now, this was all important to open up the province in tourism, open up the province in agriculture, and many other sectors, so that we can promote investment that will later create employment, and employment that would reduce poverty. So we have some practical experience, past performance at provincial level. Remember that when you run a province, you are running a small country, as it were, because the problems that would happen in one province could be repeat in other provinces. So it's only the scale that increases when you go at a national level. Yeah.
Okay. If you just tuned in, this is a special program. We're speaking to Honorable Brian Mundubile here on the Red Hot Breakfast on Hot FM. We're also live on Radio Ichengelo, Mafken FM, Radio Mano, Pika FM, Mpangwe Radio, and Kanele FM. Good morning to you, wherever you are tuned in from. Now, Honorable, you worked with late Presidents Michael Sata and Galungu. Do you have any fond recollections of your times together? How would you say the leadership styles of the two presidents rubbed off?
I wouldn't say I worked closely with President Sata, but of course very closely with President Lungu. But looking at President Sata, one thing that I remember I think was the patriotism, his love for Zambia. He, in his campaigns, he was very, very clear before he took over government. He talked about reducing poverty and vulnerability in society. When he was traversing the country, his famous story was that when we come to power, we're going to open up the country. He talked about healthcare, for instance. He would say things like, we'll make sure that there's a health facility within 10 kilometers of every settlement. And for sure, when he came into power, he made sure that he began to open the country. The whole country became a construction site. He knew that if the country was opened up by building and constructing trunk roads between provinces, roads between districts, the potential that lies in these areas would then be realized. And the 3 years that he was in power, he was in government, we saw him start a number of projects, including the Link Zambia 8000. This is something that President Lungu picked on and ensured that he carried on with the vision of President Sata. Yeah, so the memories of President Lungu, who had appointed me as minister, he was a very unique man. You know, he's a man that believed in his ministers. The reason that most of his ministers performed, I think he took his time when making appointments. He appointed people on merit and believed that they would perform in the areas of their responsibility. Why do I say so? I say so because he gave us a lot of room. And I think because we had room, we were able to perform. I just gave you an example of the Tourism and Investment Expo that we had in 2018. That was the biggest expo, provincial expo ever held, you know, in the country. We were only able to do that because he gave us room and allowed us to work and bring in fresh ideas, as it were. Yeah, so he's a man that believed in fairness, reconciliation, and you know, above all, hard work. He was very, very structured in his approach to development. I remember many times that he would run us through the 7th National Development Plan, telling us that whatever we did, we should make sure that we did it within the proposals that would come up with for development should be within what was contained in the 7th National Development Plan, which I think, if I remember, had you know, 5 different pillars. So he was able to guide us through that as provinces, we needed to compete. As provinces, we needed to run provinces like they do in federal governments. That way, out of competition, we were going to realize value and the potential that lies in respective provinces, taking advantage of the comparative advantages between provinces, as it were. So you saw that Northern Province and Wapula Province actually worked hand in hand. Of course, we're competing. This one, Chilango, and myself, he would have his expo, the next was Northern Province, and so on. But through that, I think we were able to bring development to our people, which development I think that the current government has not taken advantage of. We opened up the country, we exposed the areas, but I think that the current government has not really taken advantage of that. Yeah.
How did the passing of former President Lungu affect you personally?
It was a big blow. It was a big blow because after President Lungu lost elections in 2021, and of course appointed me as leader of opposition, I even became closer to him because I had to report to him from time to time the happenings in Parliament, and because the first 3 years after we lost power, I was still the chairman for legal. I would also, you know, be at his house to report on various matters affecting the party. Yeah, so he continued to be a father figure, like an older brother. You would want to know that he was very good with communication. And President Lungu, if you haven't chatted for 3 days, you'd find a text, and so on. And he always had a way of offering advice on certain things. And whenever we felt you know, we needed to be guided, I would quickly drive to Ibex or Chifuema to sit down with him for that advice. So his death is indeed a big blow to this country. He was a father to many. President Lungu uplifted lives of many people. During his presidency, I remember in the province, when he comes, he actually knew most of the people by name, he even had their numbers. You know, these are old men that maybe interacted with before. He always found time. He would tell you, Minister, ngawa kapoka bali kwisa. Minister, ngawa bachimba bali kwisa bayona. please make time. Can you find time to bring them? I would like to interact with them. And because he was able to go to that level, he appreciated challenges people would have, people in disadvantaged communities. And sometimes when he came back to Lusaka, you found that you would receive help on behalf of the people that you know, he had earlier met in those areas and so on. Yeah, so the people of Northern Province, the people of Zambia, who miss Edgar Chagwa Lungu for who he was and the love that he showed to the country, the care that indeed gave to all of us. So I remember him with fond memories.
How do you feel that he's still unmarried till now?
Very, very unfortunate. And we've continued to call upon the UPND government. You know, we all have our time to live and time to die. I think what is important is always to think of how the Lungu family, or what they're going through now, President Hakainde Hichilema should reflect for a moment to think about Mama Esther Lungu, to think about the children, to think about the other siblings and the wider family of President Lungu, to have the body of your beloved in a mortuary for 4 months. Really, it's unfair. Whatever the reasoning is, that is totally unfair. I think by now, President Hakainde Hichilema should have come down and just allowed the family to do what they think is best. He once said he would not travel because he needed to wait until he put his brother to rest. But, you know, we've seen him, he has started traveling, meaning for him now, life is normal. Why can't he also make sure and see to it that life is also normal for the Lungu family? Yeah, so I think we feel very bad. I feel very, very bad that this is, you know, the state of affairs. I expect the President Hakainde Hichilema to equally feel bad, especially that he's in that position. He needed to feel for his brother's family. And I can only appeal to him that really I think it has taken far too long. He needed to reconsider his position and just allow the family to do what they think is best for their beloved.
All right, we have Honorable Brian Mundubile with us here on the Red Hot Breakfast on Hot FM. We're also live on Radio Chengelo, Mafken FM, Radio Mano, Pika FM, Pangwe Radio, and Kanele FM as well. Now, you're still a member of the Patriotic Front, but it's clear that the opposition in Zambia is currently facing a number of challenges. With you wanting to run as president, have you taken a moment or a step back to fully comprehend the magnitude of the task ahead?
Yes, I have. I have done that, like I said earlier. I think what motivates my ambition is patriotism. Today, if you look at how the country is being governed, the Zambians out there, the people of Zambia are suffering. The people that relied on the promises that President Hakainde Hichilema and UPND made are today suffering. The workers out there are suffering. The civil service and the civil servants are suffering. So this country needs redemption. And the country, you know, needs to be redeemed. When you look at what the UPND stood for in opposition and what the UPND is doing today, you will agree with me that Zambia is at a stage where you can actually describe it as a failed state. The economy is failing. Cost of living is very high. I wonder how many people are actually making their ends meet. And I actually wonder for how long many people would go on like this. Yeah, so in discussing that, I would not discuss that away from maybe what was promised to the Zambian people and what the expectations were. Many people, I think when we were in government, believed that the cost of living was high, and this was a huge campaign from the UPND, where they promised people, for instance, that they would reduce the price of mealie meal. They